Welcome to Werezilla's Retrospective. I'm your host, Werezilla. Been isolating myself from you for far too often, for far too long. So let's make up for it this year. We're talking about something that has been long requested by so many of you. One last Japanese Transformer show. And what a way to bookend my continuing look at Transformers shows from Japan. I started this looking at Headmasters, a series made in Japan so that Transformers could continue airing. After all, over in America, the original show was coming to an end after Season 3. The quote-unquote Season 4 of the show was just 3 episodes. 3 episodes that subsequently did not air in Japan as a result, the Headmasters replacing it. For better or worse. Who'd ever guessed this was a trend, as Transformers Prime's 3rd season hasn't made it to Japan. What a place to end on, since for those of you who remember Transformers Prime, Season 2 ended on a massive cliffhanger. Apparently this was re-edited so it could be more conclusive, and that way they could do something else instead of Season 3. And that was something we've been seeing in the comments section for years. Triple combination, Transformers Go! Well, that was different. Previous Transformers animes have had themes that are reminiscent of Kyoryu Sentai's Zyuranger. This time around, it sounds more like Tokume Sentai Go Busters. Of course, this series wasn't shown on TV. Instead, they were released on DVD, packaged with a pair of magazines, TV Magazine and Tv-Kun. And to think people complain about exclusives on streaming services today. Imagine having to subscribe to a magazine to get your TV show. Unsurprisingly, it was to promote the Beast Hunters subline for Transformers Prime. Yes, I said the show wasn't airing in Japan, but the toys, of course, made their way there, along with some exclusives we'll be seeing in this series. Let us begin. This series is packaged in 2 volumes, a 6-episode Samurai volume and a 4-episode Shinobi volume. Each one focuses on a kid who gets their hands on a legend disc, an artifact being hunted by the Decepticons. Naturally, the kid is hopelessly outmatched until a trio of Autobots show up on the scene. Oh, but get this, both kids, Isami and Tobia, know each other, and thus are able to take part in the same meeting with Optimus Prime, giving us our setup for this series. This is going to take some explaining. So we got Transformers Prime's version of the Predacons, introduced as ancient Cybertronian life that Shockwave brought back to life through cloning. This eventually led to one of them, Predaking, becoming sentient in its own right. Well, things play out a little differently here in Transformers Go. Here, the Predacons are still created by Shockwave, though their leader here is called Dragotron, and were sealed away at Mount Fuji. Afterwards, Team Prime and the Decepticons left Earth until the Predacons return here, leading Optimus to call upon 2 teams to gather the Legend Discs and stop Dragotron. Though I should point out most of this backstory isn't told in Go itself. Instead, everything about the Predacons being made by Shockwave and the cast of Prime departure from Earth is not explained in this series. Got that backstory in a separate book.
This is bad comedy.
Looking at Dragotron, you're probably thinking he looks a lot like Predaking. This is no coincidence. His toy and all the Predacons seen in this series are based on existing toys from Prime. Funny how the toy line correlates with Prime and Go's releases. Prime's toy line was delayed, resulting in Season 1 airing with no toys on the shelves. And then later we get this series because Japan got the toys, but not Season 3. Basically a reversal of the whole situation. Now, if you have the original toys, you'll notice these ones are slightly redesigned to resemble Japanese Oni. Goes with the whole samurai and shinobi theme the Autobots have going with them. Along with our human leads, Isami is being raised to inherit his grandfather's dojo, while Tobia is a ninja in training. And of course, there's also the search for the legend discs, which require going back in time, bumping into recognizable people from Japan's history. Transformers basically did this. That's our premise, now for our execution. How about I start with the positives first? I like the modular nature of the pair of Autobot teams. Both trios are combiner teams.
They're gonna build an army of combiners!
That have no set placement in their combined form. Anyone can be top, middle, or bottom. There's a lot of different ways you can display the toys on your shelf is what I'm getting at. It's a good thing there's a lot of variations in design because as far as character are concerned, that's where things start going downhill. The Autobots are the most generic group of characters in this whole thing, personality only really coming out during single-line info dumps. You've likely seen this in Transformers before, when a character gives a brief explanation of who they are and what they can do, gives the audience a quick and easy reason to buy their toy. Too bad in this series it's primarily the latter, the Autobots explaining what they're capable of before showing it off. It gets old after a while, and it's not long before it becomes hard to tell the characters apart. I wish I could say the Predacons were more engaging characters, but sadly I cannot. They are primarily just goons fulfilling the role as the show's bad guys. The green one talks kinda like Beast Wars 2nd's version of Starscream, and the red one is envious of Dragotron's power, but other than that, they're basic henchmen. This applies to the 4 primary ones because at least they get lines. Each episode has them summon Predacons called Jackie, which, like the Seacons from Master Force, are a legion of drones that can also form a combiner team, which are endlessly revived after the Autobots defeat them. So of course these Jackie are less characters and more cannon fodder. They're the Viacons of this show. Should we start calling them Steve? Then there's Dragotron, and you're probably starting to get a sense of deja vu here as I say he is a boring villain who only exists to be someone for our heroes to fight. Not unlike a certain other Predacon leader with Tron in his name that we've covered before. But let's give Dragotron some credit, at least he actually takes part in fight scenes for most of his screen time. I mentioned Optimus Prime appears in this show, but the most exciting thing I can say about that is how he turns into a train instead of a truck for some reason. Oh wait, I do know the reason why. Which means it's time for us to start talking about Isami and Tobia, the stand-ins for the audience if ever there was one. Yes, this is the role many human companion characters in Transformers hold, but nowhere is that function more apparent in here. Both Autobot trios say they're here to support the boys, swear fealty to them, and in the end they are rescued by their respective Autobot teams after Dragotron captures them, spending most of the final battle saying, "Don't give up," to the Autobots. In other words, it's a similar situation to what a lot of kids playing with their toys watching could imagine themselves in. It's not super exciting for someone like me. There's a reason Koji over on Robots in Disguise is such a blank slate, but that does make them incredibly relatable to Go's target audience. With characters not being the show's strong point, what about the animation? I have feelings towards this. Some of this might seem familiar to you, and that's because Tasanako Productions animated this. We've seen their work before, in the Prime Wars trilogy. Like in that series, the models of the characters themselves look pretty good. I genuinely like the designs of these Autobots and feel they're wasted on their lack of personality. The Transformers in motion seem okay, even if their mouths don't move when they talk, but boy do we get a lot of reused footage in this series. There's reused attacks and transformation sequences, of course, but that's hardly the only example. In fact, Go's very gimmick of being 2 different volumes telling dual stories results in us seeing the same scenes in both. The last episodes go so far as to reuse the same animation cycles as each other, only switching out which character model is present before the volumes merge. If you watch this and feel like you've seen parts before, it's because you have. There is one other thing I should talk about animation-wise. You may have noticed the Transformers are the only ones that are all CG. The rest is all hand-drawn. And you know what that reminds me of, right? Energon. Yay. Though for what it's worth, does it blend better here in this series? Yes, absolutely. Maybe it's because Go has far fewer episodes to work with and somehow even less plot, but as a result, it's easier on the eyes. I don't know if I've made this series sound appealing to most of you. Plenty have asked me to talk about it, and now that I have, I can say it's the Transformers at its most fundamental. When you get past all your favorite characters and stories, the familiar music and nostalgia G1 or even Prime has at this point, geez, has it really been over a decade since that show's release at this point? When you get past all of that, Transformers is a toy line, and Transformers Go is basically a toy commercial. I call other shows commercials in and of themselves, but when you get right down to it, the Samurai and Shinobi volumes are here to promote the exclusive toys. Think about it. Kid finds MacGuffin, Predacons attack, Autobots face against them, show off their gimmicks. Did I just describe the average episode of Go or the average toy commercial? It explains about as much as the average commercial, that's for sure. I had to get Shockwave's backstory from a different source. The Legend discs are pure MacGuffins. The Autobots are purely here to look cool. The Predacons are here for them to fight. Optimus Prime's new form, Optimus X Prime, has no explanation. It's part of the toy line, so here it is. This is here to get your attention in the hopes you'll get the toy. Read a book if you want a narrative. Even after finishing this, there's still a lot of Transformers out there, so I have years worth of material to look at going forward. But this is it. I finally did it. After prematurely claiming so in my Beast Wars Neo video, I have now reviewed every Japanese-made Transformer show. I suppose if you want to get technical, there's still Scramble City, a Japanese-exclusive episode of the original series spotlighting Metroplex and the Combiner teams.
They're gonna build an army of combiners!
Maybe people will start asking for it in the comments now that I've done Go, but as far as complete shows are concerned, Go was the last one. At least until Takara makes another one, I guess. Going forward, it will be all Hasbro made. Those of you asking for the Beast era, the live-action movies, animated, the shows in the aligned continuity, the Netflix series, Cyberverse, it's all on my to-do list. Yes, even the upcoming Earthspark. Are you looking forward to Earthspark? Did you see Go? If you have the toys, are they more engaging than the material they're promoted in? By all means, let me know, and I will see you again next time.
いざ参上合体！30